While there was still a king, they were in name his subjects, but they were in fact ruled by their own chieftains and meddled not at all with events in the world outside. To the last battle at Fornost with the witch lord of Angmar, they sent some bowmen to the aid of the king, or so they maintained, though no tales of men recorded. But in that war the Norse kingdom ended, and then the Hobbits took the land for their own, and they chose from their own chiefs a thane to hold the authority of the king that was gone. Therefore 1,000 years they were little troubled by wars, and they prospered and multiplied after the dark plague, until the disaster of the long winter and the famine that followed it. Many thousands then perished, but the days of death were at the time of this tale long past, and the Hobbits had again became accustomed to plenty. The land was rich and kindly, and though it had long been deserted when they entered it, it had before been well tilled, and there the king had once had many farms, corn lands, vineyards, and woods. 40 leagues it stretched from the far downs to the Brandywine Bridge, and 50 from the northern moors to the marshes in the south. The Hobbits named it the Shire, as the region of the authority of their thane, and in district of well-ordered business. And there, in that pleasant corner of the world, they plied their well-ordered business of living, and they heeded less and less the world outside, where dark things moved, until they came to think that peace and plenty were the rule in Middle-earth, and the right of all sensible folk. They forgot or ignored what little they had ever known of the guardians, and of the labors of those that made possible the long peace of the Shire. They were in fact sheltered, but they had ceased to remember it. At no time had hobbits of any kind been warlike, and they had never fought among themselves. In older days they had, of course, been often obliged to fight to maintain themselves in the hard world. But in Bilbo's time that was very ancient history. The last battle before this story opens, and indeed the only one that had ever been fought within the borders of the Shire, was beyond living memory. The Battle of Greenfields, Shire reckoning 1147, in which Bandobras took rooted an invasion of orcs. Even the weather had grown milder, and the wolves that had once came raving out of the north in bitter white winters were now only a grandfather's tale. So, though there was still some store of weapons in the Shire, these were used mostly as trophies hanging over hearth or on walls, or gathered into the museum at Michel Delvin. The Matham House it was called, for anything that hobbits had no immediate use for, but were unwilling to throw away, they called a Matham. Their dwellings were apt to become rather crowded with Mathams, and many of the presents they passed from hand to hand were of that sort.